Welcome to the testing outline. My name is Daniel Krumbeck, Head of Science and Education at Pinoy. I created this to help our owners with being able to have a definitive, streamlined process for being able to do an RMR test and an active test, including spirometry. I will not go into detail. We have that already. But instead, this is just meant to make sure that you're following the right processes and the right steps. So, part one. Ensure you've completed the device preparation correctly as per the device operations manual video and the calibration and RER values video in the science room. It's imperative that you review both of these videos to make sure you're doing everything correctly. You would then complete your RMR, but then after completing the RMR, you allow your client to refuel. And you could use a gel, an energy drink, or easily digestible food post-RMR. You don't want the active test to be completed in a fasted state because it's not how they train or they race. So you complete their RMR, you get them up, and you allow them to refuel. So it's extremely important that you let them know prior to them coming that they should have some form of food available to them that they can have after completing the RMR. You would then complete spirometry, and you need to complete at least 2 acceptable tests. And you need to check the report to ensure they have breathed out for 6 seconds and the grading of your tests. And if you're good, email yourself the test file. You'll see in the app, on the Mir app, you'll be able to see a box with an up arrow, and you can email yourself the file so that you can check the file. Now, how do you know if the test is good? So here's an example of poor spirometry test quality. So this report is available in the Mir app. You can check it immediately. And this is what you're going to email to yourself as well using an upload button. So the first thing you want to do is check the number of acceptable trials. And the acceptable trials are here on the report, and there's 0. You must have a minimum of 2, but preferably 3 acceptable trials. Then you check your grading quality. That's basically how well the test was done. And the grading is based upon the variability of the test results, so between the tests. And you should try and achieve an A or B. And you can see the quality grade is an F here. And because the variability is so large on the FEB1 and the FBC, so you're going to see how large the variability is, and that's what determines the grade. And obviously, the larger the variability, the more inaccurate the measure. You want to have acceptable trials here, 2 or 3. And then you use the volume time graph, this one, volume time. And what you're looking for is to ensure the test is 6 seconds in length and to ensure your client's tests fall between the norms. And they're represented by the upper linear numbers and lower linear numbers from the GLI, indicated by the dotted lines. Because there was no acceptable tests, there's usually dotted lines here. You'll see them here. This will be your lower linear, and this will be your upper linear numbers. So it tells you where they fall within the norms. They will show up here when you have an appropriate test. And the pattern of the brush should be similar to the ones indicated in the dotted lines. And I'll show this better in the next one. Because of the fact that the test was poorly done, there's no dotted lines. Then you want to go over to the flow volume graph. You'll see the number of efforts represented here in different colors. So this is test number 1 or attempt number 1. Ensure that your clients falls between the norms, again, upper linear and lower linear numbers from the GLI indicated by the dotted lines. So here and here. And you can see that this test falls within the upper linear number itself. But you can see there's absolutely no pattern to it. They go up into a high flow rate, and then they breathe out a little harder there, and then they breathe out less hard here. So you were looking for a nice even flow indicated by the pattern of the dotted lines themselves. And remember, inhalation is represented by the curve of the negative numbers. So this is inhalation in the negative numbers. If you are doing the test as instructed in the Mir instructional video and having your client breathe in with the device in their mouth, then immediately breathe out, which is what they recommend. So I know that I showed you with breathing in without the device in the mouth. That's how I've normally tested. But with Mirror, you have the ability to put the device in the mouth. They take their deep breath in, and then immediately upon the full inhalation, they breathe out forcefully for 6 seconds and trying to drive that air out quickly in the first 1 second, but making sure that you get 6 seconds of data. So, and then you want to do is you can go and check the results, and there's a bunch of different places. The best result will be the best result from any of the tests. So, since this person only has one test, it'll be represented by the FVC, and FEV1 will be represented by that test. So it'll tell you that it's pre number one, and therefore the best from that test will transfer here. But when you've got 2 or 3 trials, which I'm suggesting you do, it will select the best number from any trial. So you could have your best FBC from trial 1, but your best FEV1 from trial 2, and your best FEV1 FVC percentage from trial 3. It will automatically pick each one and will give you a percentage of predicted that you're at and provide you the predicted score. So, and this will be represented up here of where they fit in the graph. And so under predicted, the arrow for FVC in this particular case is way high, moving towards the upper linear numbers. And this is represented by the lower linear numbers. So you're looking for all of yours to be at predicted or slightly above. And I don't really worry about if they're slightly below. It's not usually a big issue, but you want to pay attention to where the arrow is indicating how they performed are. So it's really great to be able to recheck yourself. But remember, don't evaluate poor quality tests. This is an F with net 0 acceptable trials. This test is unusable. All right, now, as I usually do, I'll take you through a test that is good. It's not great, it's not perfect, but it's really good. So we go through the same criteria. Check the number of acceptable trials. 3, check the quality grading. A, variability is extremely small, 0.003 and 0.0. Check the quality grading, and you'll see they scored an A. And you'll see it's because the variability is very small, 0.03. And of course, what you want to be able to do is score A or B in here. So you're looking for 2 to 3 acceptable trials with an A or B here. Then you have a good quality test that you can look at. But then I also tell you, using the volume time graph, you want to ensure the test is 6 seconds in length. Here's the dots representing the lower linear and upper linear. And you can see they should end right at 6 seconds. And there's the 3 trials. And you can see they're ending at 4.5 or 5 seconds. This test could be better if the person breathed out for the full 6 seconds. And you would see a beautiful, like each of the lines is very symmetrical. And there's no changes in the effort itself, but they should have breathed out for a longer period of time. When you have a perfect test, you're going to see the dotted lines, and you're going to see yours ending exactly the point the dotted line does within the dotted lines with the same pattern. So not bad, nice consistent effort, but again, not having the 6 seconds. Then you check the flow volume graph. You'll see trial 1, trial 2, trial 3, all represented. They're very symmetrical, very even. You can see the breaths in here, and then the breath out with a high peak flow in the first 2 seconds, followed by a declining flow into the end of 6 seconds. So it's this is exactly what you want to see. You want to be able to see this again, this pattern being similar to the pattern indicated in the dotted lines and within the dotted lines for lower linear and upper linear numbers. So the best way of reviewing how they performed is based upon I find this table is a lot better than using the graph. I mean, it gives you just a general idea that they have limitations below predicted in all 3 metrics. But here you can actually see the number. So the best is 5.06, predicted is 5.5. So they scored 92%. Their best FEV1 was 3.95, predicted is 4.45, scoring 88.8%. And their best FEV1 to FVC ratio was 78%. They should have scored 81, and they scored 96%. So when we're looking at this, we go, this person has what I would consider a moderate limitation that's trainable, and depending on the rest of their performance in the test, may be something I want to address. So this test is usable, but could be improved if you concentrate on looking at the 6 seconds. Now, my suggestion is that you always review your test results. And you want to be able to do that before you move on to the next stage. You want to make sure that your spirometry is accurate. So let's say you've done your spirometry, and now you're going to move on to completing a parameter check. Only complete a parameter check if it's their first test, so you have no indication of how they're going to perform, so you need to do a parameter check to determine their wattages or speeds for the test. Or it's a first test on a different modality, because you can't use the parameters from a treadmill on a bike. Or you were unable to identify parameter changes necessary from the first test. You couldn't look at the first test and say, I started too high, and my increments were too small, and the test lasted 12 minutes. I've taught you how to be able to go in and looking at the first test to be able to identify how you need to change it to make your test better. And it's always the first thing you should do after you complete your first test is to assess your parameters to make sure that they were correct, and then you do a quality check of your test. Then you look at going through and evaluating the test for the individual. Test yourself first. How good was your parameters? How good was your test protocol itself and your preparation? Was your RER correct? Did you get to a breathing frequency of above 50? Did you get your RER near 1.15? So I gave you all, and it's your first stage of the ramp test between 100 and 110 beats per minute. So always do those checks first. But you only have to complete a parameter check on someone you've never tested before, or on a new modality. So you complete a parameter check if necessary. You enter the parameters in the test protocol. You have to do that whether you do parameter check or not. You're going to need to go back to the first test to be able to see what parameters you used, and then make sure that's entered into the test protocol on the platform anyway. Now, to do this, you enter the parameters in the test protocol on the platform. What you need to do is you select ergometry protocols on your platform. Select the protocol you'll be using. Select next. Select warm-up phase. So you're going to see the 3 phases of the ramp test: warm-up, ramp, and recovery. You select the first one, warm-up phase, and you enter warm-up wattage or speed, which is 1 increment below your base speed. You select the units, mile per hour, kilometers per hour, and just double check to ensure your duration is set to 3 minutes. And then you select update exercise for the changes that you've made. Then you will select the ramp phase, the middle one, and enter the starting wattage or speed, and select the units, mile per hour, kilometers per hour, and the increment. So what is your starting wattage will be your base wattage, and your increment will be determined by taking your predicted peak speed or wattage minus your base speed or wattage divided by 9. So you enter the increment there, and then just double check that the span is set to 1 minute, and select update exercise. Then you select the recovery phase, and all you're doing there is to ensure the duration is set to 2.5 minutes. Now, the reason why I've changed from 2 to 2.5 minutes is because with the recovery metrics that I've added, we're getting a lot of tests that are just short of 2 minutes, just by people pressing the button and the test. So I've decided to do is increase that to 2.5 minutes, and then that way we can steal the 2 minutes of data to be able to do the recovery analysis as well. This is a new change. Then you select next, and then you'll be able to review the parameters to ensure they're correct. Now let's take you through a video of me doing this. Now I realize my platform looks a little different than yours. That's understandable. So under ergometry, you're going to select protocols. you're going to select the protocol that you're going to be using. So what this will look, again, mine looks different than yours, but you're going to select the protocol. Let's say I'm going to do a treadmill ramp test. It's going to bring up the basic instructions. You hit next, and you're going to have the 3 phases of the test. You're going to select the warm-up. You're going to double check the inclination, but this is where you're going to enter their warm-up speed and select the units and double check to make sure the duration is 3 minutes. So your base, you're going to do your warm-up speed, which is, as it states here, 1 increment below test base speed, indicated by your parameter check. It tells you to adjust the units as required and leave duration at 3 minutes. I've written this out so you can't get it wrong. Then you're going to do is you're going to hit update exercise. You're going to go to the ramp portion. Again, in the case of the treadmill, you're going to check your inclination. You're going to enter your base speed here, enter the units and the increment, double check the span is set to 1 minute, and you're going to update the exercise. Then you're going to select the recovery phase. You're going to make sure it's 2.5 minutes. And you're going to, if it's okay, you can either update exercise, it doesn't hurt to update exercise. Go to the bottom of the screen, hit next, and you'll be able to review the protocol to make sure that everything is correct. So elevation 2, speed, starting speed for the warm-up is 2.1 miles per hour for 3 minutes. Elevation for the ramp test is 2%, starting at 2.5 miles an hour, going up by 0.4 every 1 minute. And then the recovery time, 2.5 minutes. There's no elevation or speed because it's inactive recovery. Once you've done that, it's now available on your app with all of those parameters entered in. As soon as you select the same protocol on your app, all this information will now be there. You then can complete the active test, ensuring to adhere to the instructions in the device operations manual video and the calibration RER values video in the science room. The new parameters that you entered in the platform will be transferred to the protocol in the app automatically. Then, once you've completed the test, you open the completed active test in the platform. You select the client by clicking their name out of the subject column. Select fitness, and then enter the FEC and FEV1 and select the appropriate ethnicity in the appropriate area and select save. I'll show you how to do that. So what you do to enter the FEC and the FEV1 and the ethnicity into the platform is you select the subject's name under the subject column. You select fitness, and what you'll see is a place to enter your FBC, FEV1, and from the pull-down menu, select which ethnicity. And then all you have to do is select save, and that information is now saved and will be available on the platform. I hope this has helped. I see that people are struggling kind of putting it into a proper order, so I thought I'd make this easy for everyone. That's how you can complete it. RMR, followed by spirometry, followed by an active test, and then to import, and then to input all the information required for us to be able to do a proper analysis and report for you. I remind those that do not have spirometry that we cannot accurately give you a respiratory capacity score. So it's vital that you purchase a spirometer and input that information. We can do during the respiratory capability is to do a score based upon their GLI for predicted. So it will not help you with being able to determine what type of respiratory training that you need to do. And I strongly recommend that for $160 US, that is an extremely important metric to gain. So I would not hesitate. I remind you that you can get information on how to order a mirror spirometer in the science room. I have a file there under testing, and you'll see that how to be able to order it, whether you're in Australia or New Zealand, the UK or Europe. United States or Canada. So it makes it really easy to be able to order the spirometers that way. I thank you very much for your time. I hope this has been helpful. And I look forward to your feedback on this video.